Hey everybody, KC here. So over the weekend, the nation, and especially the Boston area, celebrated the beginnings of the American Revolution, and especially the midnight ride of Paul Revere. And here's the story from the New York Times. Thought I put it pretty well. Of all the moonlit nights in American history, one in particular has gripped the public imagination. On April 18th, 1775, a 40-year-old Boston silversmith named Paul Revere borrowed a horse and sped west to warn his fellow colonists. A looming threat had spurred his urgent errand. The British were coming. Exactly 250 years later, Revere's midnight ride still resonates for many along his 16-mile route, a symbol of enduring American values and a reminder of the heavy costs a country's founders were willing to pay in pursuit of freedom and autonomy. And listen, in so many ways, the ride of Paul Revere is emblematic of our forefathers' struggle against a king and against autocracy and against tyranny. Now, the Times goes on with some historical context. Revere's father was a French immigrant, and he anglicized their surname, Revere. Revere was court-martialed and exonerated after a failed expedition to capture a British fort. Revere built the country's first mill capable of rolling copper into sheets, and it made him rich. Of all his exploits, though, Revere's midnight ride is the secret sauce for history teachers, an anecdote so action-packed, so gripping, that it borders on the unforgettable. Unforgettable, absolutely. Except what was also interesting was a note in the Boston Globe, which sent a reporter out to follow Revere's route from Boston to Lexington and Concord. The Globe wrote this: "If you're looking for helpful signage to show the way, whether written in black and white or chiseled in stone, you're out of luck. The Revere connection is not prominently displayed much of anywhere along the route. It's dotted with bodegas and nail salons, cushy homes and three-deckers, and its noisy highways and quiet streets are emblematic of today's metropolitan Boston. But there's history beneath that modern asphalt. They were once country roads that Revere knew well as he awakened the Minutemen and others during the late night and early morning of April 18th and 19th, 1775. You know, I worry that history, when not repeated and noted and cited in the places where it happened, runs the risk of being forgotten. Not today necessarily, but eventually. People in this country may forget about the nation's struggle against a tyrannical king, which is my business metaphor for today. We talk a lot here about the importance of story and narrative in any business, and especially to any store. A store without a story is just a place that carries other people's products and allows those stories to dominate. A great store, however, tells a story from the moment you walk in the door. But stories have to be repeated. They have to be reinforced. They have to be told again and again and again, from generation to generation to generation, to and by the people who work there to the people who shop there. You can't ever stop telling your story. Otherwise, if you stop telling your story, you run the risk that all that will come after, "Listen, my children, and you shall hear," will be silence. That's what's on my mind. And as always, I want to hear what's on your mind.